Greetings, brothers of the 8th District. I am Brother Reverend William Williams, and on behalf of our 34th District Representative, Brother Osamani Saka, I present this webinar on sexual assault. As we talk about sexual assault, it's something that we should all be aware of. What is sexual assault? The term sexual assault refers to sexual conduct or behavior that occurs without explicit consent of the victim. Some forms of sexual assault would include, but are not limited to, attempted rape, fondling or unwanted sexual touching, and that would include any part of a person's body, forcing a victim to perform sexual acts, which would include oral sex or penetration, or penetrating the perpetrator's body, or penetration of the victim's body with any object, also known as rape. What is first-degree forcible sexual offense? Engaging in a sexual act with another person by force and against the will of the other person, and does any one of the following items: employs or displays a dangerous or deadly weapon, or any object which another person would reasonably believe to be a dangerous or deadly weapon, or inflicts serious personal injury upon the victim or another person, or the person commits the offense aided and abetted by one or more persons. What is rape? Engaging in vaginal intercourse with another person, with an object, or with one's digital or fingers. Engaging in a sexual act by force or against the will of another person, or with a person who is mentally disabled, mentally incapacitated, or physically helpless, and the person performing the acts knows or should reasonably know that the other person is mentally disabled, mentally incapacitated, or is physically helpless. What is sexual battery? If for the purposes of sexual arousal, sexual gratification, or sexual abuse, a person engages in sexual contact with one another. And again, that could mean any part of a person's body, by force or against the will of the person, or who is mentally disabled, mentally incapacitated, or physically helpless. And the person performing that act knows or should reasonably know the other person is mentally disabled, mentally incapacitated, or physically helpless. These are some warning signs of sexual assault for college-age adults. You can tell a person's been sexually assaulted, or one would conclude that they've been sexually assaulted, based upon the following items: withdrawing from relationships or activities, for example, spending less time with friends, leaving their sports team, or dropping of classes. Their partner does not want them to engage in social activities, or is limiting their contact with others. That they have disclosed that sexual assault has happened before. Mentioning of a partner's trying to limit their contraceptive options, or refusing to use safer sexual practices, such as refusing to use condoms or not wanting them to use birth control. Mentioning that their partner is pressuring them to do things that makes them uncomfortable. Signs that a partner is controlling their means of communications, such as answering their phones or text messages, or intruding into their private conversations, or doing some other kinds of events on their social media pages. And there would be visible signs of physical abuse, such as bruises or black eyes. Rule number one, get consent. I would ask that you would watch this following video.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Remember, get consent. It's that simple. Simple as tea. Get consent. Refusing to acknowledge no. Assuming that wearing certain kinds of clothing, or flirting, or even kissing is an invitation to anything more than just that. Someone being under the legal age of consent, as defined by your local state law. Someone being incapacitated because of drugs or alcohol. Pressuring someone into sexual activity by using fear or intimidation. And assuming that you've had permission to engage in a sexual act just because you've done it before. Get consent. When sexual assault does happen, either for the victim or for the perpetrator, these are some things you should expect to happen. The police officer, the crimes victims unit, the sexual assault unit, they will be called, and upon arrival, they will begin to take your statement. An officer will make contact with you as soon as possible. They will arrange immediately for medical. Your medical needs to be addressed, and your safety concerns will be addressed. The crime scene will be secured. They will collect evidence to make sure that nothing is lost. And this would include your clothing, securing the vehicle, and the scene where the alleged rape happened. The criminal investigation department or the sexual assault unit will respond. They will search the area and search the suspect if that's appropriate. The patrol officers will not complete an extensive interview. They will leave that to the crime scene investigators or the sexual assault unit. They will just gather pertinent information and then offer support for the victim in any way that they can and lead them to the appropriate resources. An officer will document all observations, which will include the crime scene, the demeanor of the suspect, the demeanor of the victim, and note any injuries or tearing of clothing, etc. You could expect multiple interviews that will take place to include witnesses, suspects, the victim, and any other persons that they or you would deem necessary. They will collect all the evidence and assist with that, retrieving that, and store them until they will be used in a trial. A forensic sexual assault examination will be done by the local hospital, and a certified sexual assault nurse will do the examination. Search warrants may be issued for any persons that would be connected to the assault. And again, resources will be provided to the victim. I would encourage you to be acquainted with your respective local and state laws. Be aware of your surroundings and be aware of the people you're with. Sexual assault is real. Thank you very much.